Speaking of pollen, let's talk about seasonal allergies because they are kicking a lot of folks' butts because it's tough out here for folks who deal with allergies. My mom being one of them, I saw her yesterday. Oh, man. I got plenty of friends that deal with it. So many people. Dr. Elexander Atkinson, family medicine doctor at Novant Health, is here to join us on Live Impact News to break it all down. Thank you for joining us, Dr. Atkinson.
Yes, absolutely. Thanks for having me. Happy to talk about some allergies and pollen.
So one of my first questions, how are the symptoms different versus a cold or an infection? Because myself, I might think, oh, I think I maybe having allergies, but it could be maybe a cold or an infection.
There's a lot of overlap, and if you have really bad allergies, it certainly can progress into like a sinus infection or other conditions like asthma attacks and things like that. But I think if we really tried to boil it down to simple, a runny nose and itching would be more allergies, and runny nose and body aches or fever would be more like viral, so colds, flus, COVID, things like that.
Well, now I got to ask, what's the best treatment plan? What should folks do?
Well, treatment, yeah, it's very difficult because it kind of depends on what you're experiencing and what might be triggering it. So right now we're talking about spring allergies, and you guys were talking about kind of the pollen on the cars. And one thing I just want to point out to people is that tends to be the bigger, heavier pollen that kind of settles. So it's not the pollen that's really floating in the air going in your nose. It tends to be the finer pollen that you can't quite see. And so that's why it's important to look at the pollen counts when we look at the forecasts from our meteorologists, because they kind of detect the finer pollen in the air that's actually triggering your allergies. But the treatment program or protocol would be first to avoid and limit your exposure. So that's not going outside when we have extremely high pollen counts if you don't have to. If you can exercise inside in your home or in your gym, that would be better than going out and running, especially if you do suffer from allergies. Not having your window open even though the weather is nice, making sure we're changing our air filters often, dusting flat surfaces, especially ceiling fans, vacuuming often, and changing our bed sheets and washing them with hot water. So I always like to kind of caution and teach my patients that reducing exposure is just as important as the meds that we might be able to take and give you for it. Then the next part would be, okay, well, now I'm suffering from allergies and symptoms. What do I do? Well, there's really kind of three approaches that I like patients to think about and take, and they can pick one to start with and then layer others on, or they can just start with all three. The first being an oral antihistamine. Those are going to be the over-the-counter medications like loratadine, cetirizine, hexafenadine, which would be like Allegra, Claritin, Zyrtec. And then you take those once a day. If you aren't noticing as much effect, you might want to add on something like a nasal inhaled steroid. Those would be things like Flonase and Nasacort that you spray inside your nose. And the steroid in them kind of calms down the mucosa in your nose to keep it from being as reactive to the pollen. And then the final thing I like patients to think about doing is nasal irrigation, which would be like nasal saline mist sprays, sinus rinses, neti pots, and things like that, to kind of go in there, grab that pollen that's stuck in your sinuses and your nose, and then flush it out so that you're not reacting to it as much.
One quick question before I get you out of here, and thank you for your time, Dr. Atkinson. There are a lot of folks who are first-time allergy sufferers. Why might allergies start now if someone has never experienced them before?
Yeah, that's a good question. And, we get that quite often. I've never had allergies before. I've lived here my whole life, and now all of a sudden I'm having allergies. Or we have people that just moved here and they're like, wow, this is a whole different type of allergy. And really what allergies are is an inappropriate response by your body's immune system to a benign substance like pollen. And so that can be triggered by a new pollen that's out and floating if you're to a new area, or just your immune system this year was like, oh, I feel like I'm reacting to that this year. So it can be kind of random and hard to really nail down for sure.
Some really great advice. I know a lot of folks watching this. It's some helpful advice for them, for folks who've been dealing with it for a long time. Folks like Majestic Storm, our meteorologist, who just got here. This is her first spring season here in the Carolinas, so this is new for her. Thank you, Dr. Atkinson, for your time. Again, family medicine doctor at Novant Health. Thank you again for stopping